I watched the news last night. Story number one, pandemic is getting worse. Story number two, there were 2 shootings. Story number 3, there's a hurricane coming. Story number 4, a plane crashed and 12 people are dead. The question is, how can we be more optimistic in our lives when this is what we hear each and every day of our lives? Stay tuned. Today we're going to explore how to become a more optimistic person. How do you become a more optimistic person when you're surrounded by bad news? Well, today I want to explore 5 choices that you have each and every day. And then stay tuned, because at the end, I want to offer you a free resource which will help you explore how optimistic the circle of people around you are and what to do if your score is pretty low. Choice number 1, turn off the news. Yes, I said it. I'm not asking you to be ignorant. I'm not asking you not to follow the news. It's just that, there comes a point where what the news has to say becomes pretty exhausted, and it's just an in-depth version of the headline. What we have to do each and every day is make a choice of what we are letting in first thing in the morning. I often say, rather than turning straight to the newspaper or turning on the news, is there something we can do, even if it's just for a few minutes, that focuses on positivity and lifts us up? Maybe it's just the few pages of an uplifting book or a spiritual text. Maybe it's getting some love from our pet, going for a walk with our dog, or maybe it's just getting out and breathing. Make that first choice be deliberate. And just be careful, unless you're a journalist or unless you're a news presenter or unless you need the news 24/7, just be careful what you're taking in from the news, because let me tell you, misery sells. There's nothing like a nice disaster. And of course, news often can catastrophize everything. So let's just be balanced in the news that we're taking in. Let's just make sure we're augmenting that in our lives with places of positivity, with things that are uplifting us, because that is critical to keeping an optimistic outlook. Choice number 2, choose solutions rather than problems. What do I mean by that? Hey, we all have problems. I can write a whole list of the problems I have at the moment. You can probably write a whole list of the problems you're having. But we at some stage have to make the choice to move from problem to curiosity and solution. Because if we just remain in problem mode, then that becomes this downward circle, and it leaves us feeling dismayed, feels us leaving that we've no choices to make. So here's an exercise that you might want to try. Spend a few moments and write down the problem. What is it about the problem? But after that, stop with the problem and then spend about 5 or 6 minutes and just brainstorm. What are some possible solutions? What are some things I could do about that problem? Now, the thing about brainstorming is very often we come up with this great solution and then we stop there. No, we need to give ourselves the full time. I don't care how crazy the solution might sound. Write it all out. Put it out. Let itself flow for 5 or 6 minutes. Get everything out on a piece of paper. And then an incredibly important question to ask is, what is within my circle of influence? And what I mean by that is, what solution have I written down that I actually have the power to either influence or enact? Because when it comes to problems and solutions, if we keep focusing on solutions over which we have no power to influence, then we don't feel empowered ourselves. Is there a next step that I can make that is in some way the first step to a solution to the problem I have? Step number 3, stop doing this. You know what I mean? We all think of ourselves as fortune tellers, that we can tell the outcome. But unfortunately, as human beings, at times we are great catastrophizers. We are able to foretell the worst case scenario. And when we're in this pessimistic mood, all we can think about is what is going to go wrong. And so what I want to say to you is try and get out of the catastrophizing. Try and change perhaps the focus of some of those questions. You know, a while back, I used to ask the question a lot, what could go wrong? And now I realize that's such a horrible question, because when you ask that question, what are you doing? You're inviting people to come up with a whole list of everything that could go wrong. You know what's a better question? Better question is this: what if everything went right? Think about that for a minute. Think if you have a day ahead when there's something that you're really worried about. You're not sure if things are going to turn out right. What if you just simply stopped and asked the question, what if everything went right today? Can you imagine the energy that that would bring? Can you imagine the motivation that would help you as you go into the day? So let's ditch the glass ball, the fortune ball, and let's focus more on that incredibly important question. What if everything went right today? Choice number 4, journaling. Spend a few moments each and every day writing, either in the morning, 3 things that you're grateful for and what you're excited about in the coming day, or in the evening for 3 things that you're grateful for that happened today and what you're excited about the next day, or even if you're journaling in the middle of the day, what are you grateful for? Why am I saying this? Because the research is replete with evidence that if we begin to focus on gratitude, if we begin to focus on what is working in our world, it changes our outlook, it changes our energy. So even if you're not a journaler, even if you don't like long pages of writing down, can you just spend a moment, either in the morning, during the midday, in the evening, and come up with 1 or 2 things? What's worked today? What am I grateful for? What happened today that was a surprise that I just wasn't expecting? Choice number 5, be very deliberate about your circle and how optimistic it is. So what do I mean by that? Well, we all have a circle of friends. We have a circle of relations. We have a circle of work colleagues who are around us. Some of that circle we can't choose. We can't choose who our family are, but we do get to choose who our friends are. And it's really important at times to evaluate that circle. I've developed this little exercise, which is a fun exercise to help really come to terms with how optimistic our circle is. It invites us to list all the people that we have regular contact with, and then to categorize them, to evaluate their level of optimism from 1 to 10. And as we collate all the scores, we begin to get an average optimistic score for our own circle. Here's what I find. If your optimistic score is 4 or below, then it's time to really examine the circle of people around you, and you might want to add a few more people into your circle that are more optimistic. Why is this important? Because in the world of emotional intelligence, we know this. We know that our emotions are contagious. We literally catch the emotions of other people. And so if we're surrounding ourselves with people who are just lacking optimism, who are not able to see solutions but only problems, who like to dwell on everything that is going wrong, that is going to impact how we show up and the energy we feel today. So choose to expand your circle with a little more optimism. Optimism is a choice. In fact, we have 5 choices each and every day that we can make that can truly help in our optimistic outlook. Now, if you've enjoyed today's episode, I really want to invite you to download that exercise that I talked about in choice number 5. It's called the Optimistic Circle, and it's a guide on how you can evaluate the circle of people around you and how to make some choices about leveling up some of the optimism that you experience each and every day. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I invite you to look at the next episode, which is how to influence positively people in the workplace.